Chumash for Thursday. It's rather short. In page 34 in the Chayenu, Chamishi, the fifth aliyah of Parashas Kiseitze. Verse 25, Pasach of Hey. Kisavoy b'cherem reyecha. When you enter your fellow man's vineyard, v'yachalta novim kinafshecha sevecha. So this is, we're talking today, that this is the laws of workers' perks, which comes from the word perquisites, which we only found that out a couple of years ago. The perks of being a worker. When you come to your friend, you work for your friend's vineyard, you as a hired worker may eat the grapes until you are sated. But to your bucket, don't take home a doggy bag. You know what I'm saying? Don't put it into your bucket, your basket.
No doggy.
In other words, you're allowed to eat if you're working on the job. The grape pickers, they're allowed to eat. They're allowed to snack on it while they're there. It's a perk.
As much as they want, right?
And, I mean, I think until they're satisfied. I don't think you can have a grape eating contest. You know what I'm saying? But chafei kisav b'cherem reyecha. It actually says Rashi. I'm going to say in a second. When you enter your fellow man's vineyard, we're talking here by a hired worker, because it doesn't say. It's when you enter. Anytime you enter, you go to someone, you're touring, the Finger Lakes, you go in someone's vineyard, you get out. No, it doesn't mean anyone. It means a hired worker. And it says you can eat kinafshecha. Rashi translates as, nafshecha is actually interesting, kama shetirtze. That it says you can eat like according to your soul. What do you mean according to your soul? What does it mean? It means according to your desire. It's interesting to note that the word nefesh, soul, also means ratzon, desire. It has two meanings, soul and desire, which are very much, connected to each other. Your desire is, really an exhibiting of the soul. But anyways, interesting point. That's the way it translates the simple Bible here, right? The simple Torah.
Does that mean as much as the person wants?
Then it says savecha. Then it says you can eat till you're satisfied. And not a gluttonous eating. In other words, you can eat to be satisfied, but you cannot eat to gorge.
Never can be a glutton.
Right. Do not put any in your basket. From here we learn the Torah permitted to eat only at a harvest time. The time that you put into the basket, the employee's vessel. But if he was hired to dig or to cover exposed roots, he is not allowed to eat. It's interesting. So saying the idea of
Roots.
the idea of eating on the job applies at the time of when you're harvesting. But if you're going to, do the electrical work, you can't eat. You're doing the mace. You're putting up the fence around the vineyard. Then you can't go snack on grapes because it's not related to the harvesting type of thing, a food harvest. Okay. Chaf vav kisavi becomes b'katavtim lesbiadacha. When you enter your fellow man's field of standing grain, they say corn. We always have a problem with that. I don't know why they say corn. Kamas means standing grain of any type. You may.
Okay.
The katafta melilas videcha. You are allowed. You as a hired worker. Another perk. You can pluck the fresh kernels, or it's corn, ears of corn, whatever, to eat them, to pop them in their mouth. You can you can snack off the, you can't make a whole bakery operation, but you can pluck to snack on the kernels. Yeah. But you may not wield a sickle on your fellow man standing grain for this purpose. I mean, you can take a little bit, pick a little bit to eat on the job, but you can't start chopping down a lot to take home. Kisa becomes recha. This too, as Rashi says, is talking about hard worker, because the literal way the verse is when you come into it, doesn't mean you come into Torah, a farm. You could go to when you're coming as a worker, you can get this perk. All right, page 35. We're doing chapter 24, verse 1. Perek Chavdal Pasuk Aleph. Ki yikach yishisho bala. Now, these are the laws. This is the source of divorce in the Torah. When a man takes himself a wife and marries her, if then he does not like her because he found something immoral about her.
Where does it say immoral? Ervat davar?
Yeah, ervat davar. It means inappropriate matter. Well, look, it says if he doesn't like her, she doesn't find favor in his eyes. Because he found in her ervas davar, something inappropriate, something immoral. Typically, that'd be infidelity, I think. V'chasav la sefer krisus. Then he shall write for her a bill of divorce. Sefer krisus means a bill of separation of divorce. V'nasam biyadam, and give it into her hand. The shulchan abeisai, and thus release her from his house.
It really can't be infidelity, because that would be adultery, and then she would have to die. If he knows that for a fact, so immoral has to be.
It can be more. You're right. I take it back. I don't think it. The answer is, I think you're right. It's the adultery one is put to death for is a very, very high standard of evidence, 2 witnesses and whatnot. But let's say,
he suspects infidelity.
He suspects, or one person told him about it or whatever. Meaning, or she just was, lesser forms of behavior that were inappropriate. It's many other things that don't go to that high level, Then he says in Rashi, he's obliged to divorce her so that he will not come to like her. Interesting.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Basically, here's the deal. This is actually a huge topic in the Gemara. As we said before, Rashi is the Twitter of the commentaries. He's giving you very short commentaries, but they're referencing big, pages of Talmud. So there's a discussion in the Gemara in Tractate Gittin that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel argue about what are the grounds for divorce. So Beis Shammai was very high standard interpretation. It says here it has to be ervas davar. It would have to be she was caught or suspected of immoral behavior. That's the only level of grounds for divorce. You don't like her, that's not reason for divorce. You fell out of love, it's not reason for divorce. Beis Hillel says no. Look at the other part of the verse. It says she doesn't find favor in his eyes, meaning he simply doesn't like her. He's allowed to divorce her.
It says here she burned his food.
So Rashi's saying, right? I mean, even if it's for a minor thing, right? Like even it's just an expression. Even if she burned his food, he could. Even for the slightest thing, it's not recommended necessarily, but he's allowed to divorce her. So Beis Hillel says you could have any small thing could be a grounds for divorce. And Beis Shammai says no, only the highest level of immorality would be a grounds for divorce. Rashi is saying the more straightforward. He's not getting to what the halach is, but the thing is, the more straightforward reading is that it says when she is immoral. And if that's the case, then why are you telling me in the verse how Beis Shammai say why are you telling me you don't like her? That's irrelevant. Once she's caught the high, the big problem of immorality, then who cares if you like her or not? That's not relevant. So he says, but Rashi explains it as if once she's caught with indecent behavior, whatever that is, whatever level that is, then it's a mitzvah to divorce her. So you won't keep someone who's this inappropriate person, and you'll start to develop feelings again for her. Once there's that kind of that the caught of indecent behavior, sends her. She should be divorced. So you send this type of indecency away from your house. That's the way Rashi is saying. Anyways, days. V'yatzim be'sai. She then leaves his house. And she goes and marries another man. She leaves his house and goes and marries another man. Another man. This man is not akin to the first husband. It's a play on words. Literally, she gets divorced from husband one, goes to husband two. So the fact that it said she'll go to another man, rather a second man, is to say this guy is very other than her first husband. The first husband divorced an indecent woman from his house. And this guy welcomed an indecent woman to his house. So he's like an other type of guy. He's a lower type of guy. Gimel. And inevitably, when you bring someone who's, an unreliable, a lack of integrity woman into your house, Gimel, usnei isha acharoin v'chasav law. You're gonna the second man hates her because you bring an inappropriate person. Eventually, it's gonna hurt you too. V'chasav law sever krisos, and then he divorces. The second husband divorces her. V'nasam yada, and puts in her hand, v'shulchem abeisai, and thus releases her from his house. Or kiyamas isha achrin, or let's say the hubby number two died. Ashlokachal isha, the second man who married her dies. ... It's going to tell you what happens next to this woman and her, tumultuous life. But we'll pause that thought. That'll be in verse Dalet and 4. Gimel, Rashi just comments that the verse is informing you that the second husband who brought an indecent woman to his house eventually will hate her. It's kind of, that's just the way, chances are she's going to have a lack of integrity to you as well. Husband number two. And if he's willing to, and if she doesn't hate her and just keeps allowing this indecent, lack of integrity woman in his house, right, he's going to die eventually, of heartbreak or something, anyways, just telling you it's an incidental comment. Dalet, verse 4. So this woman, remember, she's divorced from husband number one. She divorces husband number one, who's still alive, but she's divorced from him. She marries husband number two, and either she divorces husband number two or husband number two dies. Then this woman can no longer remarry husband number one. It's forbidden forever. He cannot, the one who divorced her, the husband number one who divorced her number one, cannot take her a second time to be a wife. After she was after she was defiled, meaning by marrying a husband number two. Basically, because she was, it's a weird word, defiled. It's like she was taken by husband number two. She lived with husband number two. Yes, she became, the relationship between her and husband number one, even though it ended in divorce, but once she goes to the next step of marrying husband number two, she's defiled in the aspect of in her original relationship.
She can no longer be kodesh.
She's really cut off from her husband number one. It's an abomination for Hashem for her to go back to husband number one. You must not thereby bring sin upon the land that your God is giving you as a permanent possession. This kind of, her going from husband one to two back to one is a very immoral concept. and therefore it's forbidden. And the Torah forbids it because the land is a holy land. We don't allow kind of this loose marriage, 1, 2, back to 1. You can imagine I think the simple reason of why once she marries husband number 2, she's forbidden forever husband number 1 is because this if not, it would cause a very tumultuous life. I love you, divorce. I love you. I don't love you. I don't love.
No,
There's a certain finality.
In the cosmos, she's defiled as far as the cosmos goes.
I don't know if I think it's not. Let's say it was just a real. Let's say she, as we said earlier. Well, it depends. The way Rashi's going is that we're talking a woman that was indecent. The halacha, by the way, the Jewish law is there's grounds for divorce even without being caught in indecent behavior. Let's say there's just they're incompatible, right? That is grounds for divorce.
Yeah.
We follow Beis Hillel's opinion. Even so, if she goes and gets married with mutual agreement for divorce, and they get divorced from husband 1, and she marries husband 2, and whatever reason that doesn't work out, let's say it was not indecent behavior, just whatever, she still can't go back to husband number 1, even without any indecency, because there's a certain marriage is a real bond of souls, and once you sever it and then you realign to a second man, you can't just go back. You can't sever that and go back to that. There's a certain sense of make up your mind, I think.